Hey guys, welcome back to another year of Yuki, another year of the Snow Owl. This is going to be the first video I make in 2026, and this is kind of a different why you should play. I'm experimenting, trying different things, and hopefully that this, excuse me, oh my goodness, sorry you had to hear that. But hopefully that this is a new experience for everyone, and that you enjoy me not just doing fighting games, but dabbling in other series as well. And this series has a, at least this game has a very special place in my heart. So I hope all of your Christmas and New Year's were really good. And if you don't celebrate, I just hope you had a good snowy winter where you were safe, home, warm, and with your family. So without further ado, let's just go straight into this and talk about Phantasy Star. While this is Blueburst, I'm going to be interchanging the name. So when I say Phantasy Star Online 1, that also incorporates Blueburst because Blueburst is a fan continuation of the game, running on its own servers. And originally this game came out on the Dreamcast, so now it's being constantly updated that you can play with someone who's playing on a actual hardware of a Dreamcast with someone who's playing on Xbox, and I believe you can play on different versions of the game. That I'm not too sure on, but I would say definitely look into it. So like I said, this is a fan creation. This game is very special to my heart. And yeah, let's get into it. So Phantasy Star was released on the Dreamcast in December 21st, 2000. Basically the turn of the century, so this was something new, revolutionary. And it released to great reviews on Metacritic, giving it an 8.1. Though during this time, online games were kind of starting to become a lot more, special. This was, first you had on PlayStation 2, Outbreak that came out later, you had Diablo. So a lot of these games were now becoming online games. So online games are really cool. So this game mainly focuses, the story at least, mainly focuses on space migration. If what's going on nowadays is kind of very similar, but this is the space migration. So a quick synopsis of the game is thousands of years in the future where the Earth is falling apart. Groups of thousands escape on a dying planet, aka Earth, on ships dubbed the Pioneer 1 and 2. So just as they get to the planet, they're taken over by the Dark Falls, and that's where your created character comes in. And while this is going on, you're learning more and more about the world you're currently on, while also defending it from the Dark Falls. So it's a fun sounding game. It's really cool. It stood the test of time. I would even say, like, music and stage wise, obviously graphically it's old, but I do think it holds its talents up to this day. But it didn't have such a great development time. The development for this game was very wishy-washy, to say the least. The chairman of Sega, I'm gonna butcher this name, but Isao Okawa, he was the head of Sega and wanted a game to head their new console, aka the Dreamcast. But they wanted something a little bit different. So at this time they wanted what was most on people's mind, which was online games. But at this time, most Sega developers didn't even know how to really work it. How do they, make an online game when this is something they've never tackled before? So it was definitely a big task and a big ask. They're just coming off of Sonic Adventures 1 and Jet Set Radio, which are like top hitter games and are dominating Sega right now, and putting that in households across the world. So now that they finished those games, they had to figure out how to incorporate their skills into the online space, which I say they did a really good job, because look how the game turned out, and its accessibility even for the fans to be able to turn it into what it is today, Blueburst. So without further ado, let's talk about the characters. So the characters in this game are, they're characters, but they're not really characters. They're more of races and classes that you're able to choose from to help you, progress through the game. So a good frame of reference, we're just going to be talking about the 3 races and what classes that they can achieve. So the first one will be human. This is the basic class of PSO. This is like more balanced. Their early game is, pretty, I wouldn't say weak, but it's just pretty standard. They are able to use text/forces, which is basically like the magic based mechanic of the game. Their weapons are physical, so like swords, daggers, and things of that nature. So they really don't start off super strong, like I said, very basic. But later in episodes 1 and 2, you'll start to see like a big spike in their stats. So here on screen are what the human classes are available to them. So you have a pretty sizable group playing with, and you have the choices between picking a male and a female of the class, and those do affect the stats. I'm only gonna put up for cast when we get to them because those are the more significant ones. I would say like if you really want to in-depthly learn, like go to the wiki, go to the Discord to learn more about each class and why that class has that stat. This is just mainly to kind of get you, like I said, your palate wet. Maybe you're looking for a new MMO basic, nothing too crazy, but still, fun to play. So that's the whole of, achieving here. So the next class would be the Newmans. They're basically like the elves of this game. They're really good with tech. So like the magic, they excel in, but they suck with physical combat. So basically anything having to do with a sword or daggers, they blow. You can still use them, it's just not as good as if you were to use human and then casts. But they do excel in tech uses. So, and they have a special ability as well to where they slowly regenerate TP, or basically mana. It stands for tech points, but mana, essentially. So that's going to be really good for like forces and stuff. So here are the classes on screen. I know it's a very short list, but they can only use pretty much magic, so it makes sense for them to only be able to use force and one class that's physical. And we're gonna go over the classes individually and what they do in a second, so don't be too don't fret too much. And then casts, the next one, androids. You can choose between male and female in this race as well. They don't have too many differences amongst the races themselves, just amongst themselves, if that makes sense. I know that sounded funny, but if it makes sense like that, I put on the screen like the stats just to give you kind of an idea on how the cast male and cast female are very different. So depending on since they have every class available to them, you kind of like, this is more for the advanced, like how you want to build your character later on. So as we talked about classes, there are going to be 4 classes. You have rangers, or 3 classes, excuse me. Rangers, hunters, and forces. So hunters are basically the bladed weapons in your close range combat. And here on screen, I'm going to show like each version of it, because it's like kind of the same thing, but each version of, depending on which class and race you pick, that's where it starts getting really complicated. But it's still simple. It's still very simple. In the sense of like, once you pick the class and pick the race and then pick the class, you'll pretty much understand what it's being told to you very quickly. The next one is rangers. Rangers are basically, they sound like rangers. They're ranged units. They sit from afar. They mainly use pistols, rifles, and things of that nature. They may suck at close distance, but they're really good at far away. The next one, also on the screen here, sorry, I meant to say that, but on the screen here is going to have, rangers and, what class and race, go with which, and they're kind of like quick stats. And last but not least, the forces. The forces are basically like your mages of the game. They mainly focus on tech. So basically any type of magic damage and or healing or like buffing. This is that's the class for you. So basically it's the mage class. Their only downfall is their low HP, and here are each class and its drawbacks and pluses. So now that we've kind of gone on that, we have ironically something a little different that I'm just gonna briefly summarize very quickly. Is 2 things actually, which is the ID. So the ID, I'm gonna have them on screen here. But just to give a quick synopsis, each ID given to a character, you see like this glowing symbol here on the screen, and they will be shown on your character as well. They affect how your character interacts with the world, so what drops they get, and items that they like rarity of items that they receive. So I would suggest watching a video on it. There are plenty of videos out there explaining like how to name your character in a way that allows you to better get weapons and armor for that character, because it does affect it. As you see, my character's name is Muck. If you look at the top right corner here, my name is Muck X. So I just wanted to keep the motif of X, but I don't care about the name. So I looked up a chart. If I find that chart again, I'll either put it here on the screen or in the description below. And mags. Mags are like these little things you see floating next to you. They affect a lot of things, your progression. They allow you to level up faster. They're pretty much like, they're stat boosters, essentially. And their max level is like 200. So depending on how well you feed it, because you could feed it items and things of that nature, goes really well with your character or can really hinder your character. So mags are really important. Another thing I would suggest of watching an in-depth video talking about it, because that's not what this is. This is not an in-depth video. So I'm just giving you like quick stats, quick stuff to kind of just like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go, get into it. So now that we talked about like just like kind of the meat and potato, I'm going to end it with this, saying that the main gameplay of this is just doing missions, whether it's by yourself, put on some relaxing music, or even listen to the OST. The OST is really good, which I'll go over in a second, but the OST is really good. So this is, like I said, another game you play with your friends or by yourself. You get drops to make you stronger, you fight bosses, so forth and so forth. It's your standard MMO. You have basically 6 challenges that you can do, so like little side missions that change every day depending on what Blue Burst in this case is going to be adding. Sometimes they add like events that you can do to fight the Dark Falls together and things of that nature. And then you have the stages and the episodes, depending on which version you're playing. It could be the Dreamcast version or the Blue Burst version on Dreamcast. Which allows you to play the different episodes, which has different challenges within it, with different stages that progressively get harder. So as your character levels up, the challenge meets the level of the character. So the leveling up is dependent on, like I said, how you named your character, the items you have in its class, and its race. Everything is played into account to make your character the best it could be in that race/class. So yeah, just leaving at that, I would like to say like the designs of the stages are really good, and I really enjoy the game, so we'll just leave it there and just let's go straight into the conclusion of the video. So ending off the video, I just want to say that PSO2, oh excuse me, not PSO2, but PSO1, Phantasy Star Online for the Dreamcast Blue Burst, it's such an interesting game. I do believe it still stands the test of time today. Like, it's a very enjoyable game. I want to say that at the end of the day, like, trying this game is definitely a go, especially if you're into PSO2. I say if you play PSO2 already, then you're already going to like PSO1. Especially if you played PSO2 before New Genesis, you're really going to enjoy PSO1. I would say like also too from the soundtrack, this is like my favorite song here. So yeah, that's my favorite song. I do think that out of the soundtrack, you probably heard me put it in other videos too. It's such a great soundtrack. Especially just to really introduce you into the game, because it's like right before you pick anything or go out into the field and start, farming and stuff like that. So I would even go as far as to say that this game gets, I would say about maybe 9.5 hunters out of 10. I do think it's a really solid game that still holds its weight to this day. So just taking the time out of your day to really just sit down and really enjoy it is something I think that everyone should do. Especially like my favorite thing to do is like on a rainy day, just sit down, or like on a snowy day, or just even a cold chilly night, grab some tea, sit down and just listen to the music, grind with some friends, pause, and really just kind of enjoy the game for what it is. Nowadays we have so many games that are just like microtransactions and all this crazy stuff thrown at you, and for PSO to be such a simplistic game and harping back to just solid gaming eras, I think is a really good callback and experience, especially nowadays where I hear a lot of people going back to more simpler times. and I do think this is a perfect game for that, and it's very in-depth. So like I said, in the description I'll be putting the wiki, which explains a lot more stuff in depth, because I have a lot more stuff in my notes here, but I feel like putting them in the video would thus make the video like 30 minutes long and kind of unwatchable after a certain point. So yeah, I'd rather you go do the research. That's kind of like the whole points of these videos. If this is your first time watching, this is kind of the whole point of the Why You Should Play series. It's just going to go over mainly fighting games, but occasionally I will be talking about side games. So just take the time yourself, once you are piqued by my video, to just go check out like the in-depth stuff when you have a chance. And with that, I'll leave you with the video, and that's it. So remember, stay my exes. Peace.